Welcome back. Funlayo Alabi started a business out of her desire to help her son. Today, not only can her products be found in stores around the world, they've been used to change lives of women in Africa.
How can a bottle of Shea Radiance shampoo or a jar of Shea Radiance body cream transform a community? First, it begins with a woman. An African woman in the rural savannah using knowledge passed down from her mother and grandmother on how to coax shea butter out of the shea nut. If this woman can find the right partner who values her labor and product, the butter has the power to transform her life, her children's lives, and her community. Then there's the shea tree. It spans over 21 African countries, from Senegal to parts of southern Sudan. The shea tree grows only in the African savanna. The shea trees bear fruit every year. The sweet, ripe shea fruit fall to the ground between April and July. Inside the shea fruit is the shea nut, and inside the nut is the kernel that produces the butter. For centuries, shea butter has been used for food, beauty, and healing. Every shea fruit that falls from the shea tree is handpicked by an African woman. 16 million African women try to make a living picking and processing shea nuts into butter. Shea butter is called women's gold because all the processing is done by women, and they keep all the proceeds from the sale. Women use the money earned from producing shea butter to feed, clothe, and educate their children. At Shea Radiance, we have seen that when a woman is financially empowered, it impacts the lives of her children, who are the future of the community.
My name is Aisha Ayuba. I am married. I have 5 children. 3 are in school and 2 are home with me. What does Shea Radiance mean to me? Selling shea butter means more money for me and my children. With the money I make from selling shea butter, I can send my other 2 children to school. If there was no market for my shea butter, there would be no money and no school for my children.
We are making a difference as a Target brand with our shared commitment to quality, sustainability, and social responsibility. Shea Radiance and you, making a beautiful change in women's lives.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, that's an incredible story we just saw, but the journey started for you with wanting to help your son. Tell us a bit about that.
So I have 2 boys, and the first one was born with some kidney problems that made his skin really dry. And the second son seemed like he was born with eczema. So both of them had very rough skin issues. And what we decided to do was to find a natural alternative to the cortisons the doctors were recommending for their skin.
What made you decide that? Because, I mean, for most of us, naturally, you think, well, the doctors prescribe that. That must be the best option to go for it.
Absolutely. But when you read the ingredients on some of the prescriptions, just the synthetics and the long-term effects of what they could have on the kids was a big concern to my husband and I. So we started thinking back to, what other remedies could there be for extreme dry skin and eczema?
So you and your husband, you well versed in medical things, and were you?
We were just concerned parents at that point, trying to research and find the best products for our children. Yes.
Okay, so you decide, actually, we're going to go natural, and
yes.
And it took you to shea butter.
Absolutely. Both of us, having grown up in Nigeria, knew that shea butter was a great moisturizer. My grandmother used to chase me around the house. She used it for stuffy noses, bruises, and bumps. And my husband grew up in Nigeria where, he was very close to shea butter. And he even had memories of his father using it as a rub on his foot when he sprained his ankle.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize shea could be used. You gave me some to use on my hand, and my hand, almost 45 minutes later, is still so creamy.
Yes.
But for you in this journey, you're here now making these wonderful products.
Yes.
Lives are being changed. Where was your faith in Jesus in the middle of all this?
I'm so glad you asked that. You know, sometimes God uses very simple things to change your life and impact the life of others. And one thing we've always known is that we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do works that He had in mind before we were even born for us to do. And what happened is, as we started taking this Shea journey, we felt that we had found one way of fulfilling God's purpose for our lives. It began when we made a trip, started making trips back to Nigeria, to the northern part of Nigeria, and also to different parts of West Africa where shea butter comes from. Shea butter comes from a region in West Africa that is extremely impoverished. So whether you're in northern Nigeria or northern Ghana or Senegal or Mali, the lives of the women who produce shea is identical. You won't even realize you're in a different country. And we started in a village in Nigeria once, my husband and I, and we felt this sense that this is where we could make a difference. That if we could run a successful business, it would impact the lives of these women because we would provide a market for their products.
So you talk about running a successful business. Now, I mean, I'm assuming you're going to say this thing works like magic. But actually, how well did it work on your sons?
Absolutely. When we started using the shea butter on their skin, we were like, wow, this is amazing. Because in a couple of weeks, we started seeing the eczema being under control. And then even on our dry skin, we started noticing that the skin had a nice glow. And even if you have bruises, we noticed that the bruises were healing very quickly. So we started giving it to friends and family. The feedback was incredible. And then we said, you know, we'll take this to our local farmers market and see if anyone would buy it. And the response was overwhelming. Apparently, there are a lot of people with dry skin who are looking for natural alternatives that kind of clicked. And, you know, what we had to offer was a good fit for them. So we knew we had our hands on a winner.
Well, I have to say, a personal confession. My wife has been sending me to Africa on trips to go and find shea butter.
Yes.
So I don't know where you've been hiding all this time, but thank God you're here.
Yes.
But for someone who's watching, I mean, beyond the product you have, beyond the great business, beyond your son's life's being changed, and that, someone who's watching who has a dream of doing something similar, of changing lives, but actually they can't see how their business can change lives, because all they know is preach the gospel from the altar and it changed lives. Tell us a bit about your experience of this and how you've seen real lives change in Africa.
Absolutely. So one of the scriptures that always comes to mind is in Proverbs 13:23, where it says that there's much food, there's abundance in the fallow ground of the poor, but for lack of justice there's waste. One of the things you'll find out when you go into some of these areas that we went in, and everyone's field is different. You know, God may have put you in IT, you might be a marketer. For me, it was just something as simple as shea butter and actually going to find out how it's made, where it comes from. We would be sitting under a tree where women really don't have money to buy medicine for their kids. And the tree we're sitting under is a huge baobab tree. And on the baobab tree, you see fruit. And we know, because we live in the West and we're doing constant research, that, you know, the baobab fruit is very valuable. That inside the baobab fruit is a seed that if you press the oil, you can sell it for so much money in Europe and in the US. And so we're sitting here and looking at all this abundance, and the people who own the abundance are living in poverty. And we sat there and we're like, Lord, how can we make a difference? How can we make a difference? And that's how the fire started. And we know that if we can do it in our small way, because we're a small company, that there are other businesses that can join us and do more in this area.
So for every single person like myself who buys one of your products, it's not just helping me, it's helping women on the continent of Africa.
Yes, it's helping women like Aisha that you saw in the video, Habiba, Ramatu, all these women who, when Shea Radiance comes in to buy their raw shea butter in bulk, have an income that they can use for things like educating their children, buying shoes, buying medicine. See, the money that comes from shea butter actually belongs to the women. Typically, these women are farmers. They farm with their husbands, and then he gets to give them whatever he feels they deserve out of the farming. And he may have multiple wives. But during the shea season, women make money that they can keep.
Right.
So this is a value added to the women's lives. And you know, when you educate a woman, you educate a whole community. And that's our goal.
Ms. Delaby, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.